Tonight on Newshour, we take a look at 8 developing stories that together could totally reshape the future of international relations. We'll head from East Asia to Europe, Africa and to the United States to delve into the detail on the latest geopolitical machinations. We start in Taiwan, once a front line of war, now a window to peace. Taiwan's Dadan Island is drawing crowds again. Tourists are stepping in to history, exploring bunkers, tanks and minefields just 2 miles from China's coast. For Taipei, reopening this outpost is more than tourism. It's a message of endurance and optimism.
Tourists arriving at Taiwan's Dadan Island have some unusual sights ahead of them. Tanks, military relics, and danger signs warning of landmines. Also on the itinerary, selfies against the backdrop of China's Xiamen, just some 2.5 miles away. More than 25,000 visitors have flocked to the island since it reopened last year, after closing in 2019 because of the COVID pandemic. Dadan is part of Kinmen, a group of islands held by Taiwan since 1949, when the Republic of China government fled to Taipei after losing the civil war to Mao Zedong's forces. It was also the site of a People's Liberation Army assault in 1950, which the Taiwan military fought off. For visitors like Su Yuhua, the island evokes a powerful sense of history.
As someone who has served in the military, my impression is that being stationed here back then must have been incredibly tough and exhausting. It also gives me a real sense of tension between Taiwan and China at the time.
That tension still simmers. Chinese Coast Guard ships regularly enter Kinmen's waters, prompting Taiwan to send its own vessels in response. The island is dominated by a striking red slogan, Dadan's top tourist attraction, painted in large bold letters facing China. It reads, "Reunify China with the 3 principles of the people," the political philosophy for Sun Yat-sen, who founded the Republic of China and overthrew the Qing dynasty in 1911. These days, Su Chi-sin, Kinmen's Tourism Bureau Director, hopes tourists come away with some optimism about the future, despite the ongoing tensions between Taipei and Beijing.
Kinmen County is the only place where urban warfare has taken place, which reminds us that war is ruthless and peace is priceless. Through opening Dadan for tourism, it is a symbol of peace. The past is history, it's behind us, and what we have is a better future. Through restoring the military camps, we hope to pass on a spirit, a universal value, peace.
Staying in the region, Japan's new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, is wasting no time. She's preparing a sweeping stimulus worth over $90 billion to ease the pressure of rising prices. Her first major move since taking office, and it aims to protect households and spark growth across key sectors.
Japan's new leader, Sanae Takaichi, is planning a massive economic stimulus package to fight household inflation. That's according to government sources that spoke to Reuters, who said it is likely to exceed $92 billion. It would mark Takaichi's first major economic initiative since she took office Tuesday.
We will take firm action to address the rising prices that the public is currently facing.
She's a supporter of big fiscal spending and has said she is committed to what she calls, quote, responsible, proactive fiscal policy. Sources said the funds will be built around 3 main areas. Those include measures to counter inflation, investment in growth industries and national security. Investors are closely watching Takaichi's spending plans as Japan is one of the world's most indebted economies. Her administration plans to quickly abolish the provisional gasoline tax rate as part of its core inflation relief measures. Another goal is to expand local government grants with a focus on supporting small and medium-sized companies, while it also aims to invest in growth sectors like AI and semiconductors. The sources said the exact scale of the package is still being finalised and that it could be announced as early as next month.
OK, let's head to Europe now. At the UN Trade and Development Conference in Geneva, Antonio Guterres warns the world is investing more in weapons than in welfare. With trade wars rising and developing nations squeezed by debt, he's calling for fairness, restraint and renewed global cooperation.
While services trade is growing, we see a rising risk of trade wars for goods. And military expenditure trends show that we increasingly are investing more in deaths than in people's prosperity and well-being. Meanwhile, geopolitical divisions, inequalities, the climate crisis, and new unprotected conflicts are rippling across the global economy. Global debt has soared, poverty and hunger are still with us, and the international financial architecture is not providing an adequate safety net for the developing countries. And the rules-based trading system is at the risk of derailment. Developing countries continue to be short-changed. Uncertainty is growing. Investment is retreating. Supply chains are in turmoil. And trade barriers are rising, with some least developed countries facing extortionate tariffs of 40%, despite representing barely 1% of global trade flows. Maybe protectionism might be, in some situations, inevitable, but at least it should be rational.
Staying on the continent, in Montenegro, Ursula von der Leyen says she feels the heart of Europe beating. Praising Podgorica as a frontrunner for EU membership, she urges the Western Balkans to seize the moment as Brussels promises fresh billions to boost reform and integration.
On the occasion of her official visit to the Western Balkans.
Success stories, and I know we have many more of them coming up. Every time when I come here, and it's the same today, I feel the heart of Europe beating here in Montenegro. You're not only committed to your European future, you're very passionate about it, and that's good, you show it. Because you are a front runner, without any question, in the accession process. Since my visit last year, you have closed 4 negotiating chapters. This is amazing, this speed. And you're now on good track to close another at least 5 this year. And I know you are determined to close all chapters next year and to become, as you put it, the 28th by 28th. The geopolitical momentum is now. Russia's aggression against Ukraine has reshaped our continent. Every European nation must choose its place and pick a side, and Montenegro has made its choice already, very clearly. You're fully aligned with the European Union's foreign and security policy. We deeply appreciate your decision to send Montenegrin soldiers to support our training mission in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. I declare press conference over.
To the UK now, leaders from the Western Balkans gathered in London alongside Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz. They shared a goal which was to dismantle human trafficking gangs, counter Russian meddling and revive dialogue between Serbia and Kosovo.
The Western Balkans has long been a vital transit route for the criminal smuggling gangs. You don't want to see those gangs operating in your territory, and we all suffer the consequences of their action. We're talking of a criminal enterprise here, a vile trade with people making huge amounts of money that directly impacts on all of us. So we have to take these gangs down, smash them, through proper, purposeful cooperation. And we're going further today as the United Kingdom, announcing new sanctions against 13 individuals. And we're increasingly using these sanctions as an effective way of bearing down on this trade. And these are 13 individuals today that we are imposing new sanctions on, who profit from this trade in human misery. Because we will stop at nothing to pursue criminals like this across their network, so they've got nowhere to hide. In the Western Balkans, Russia is seeking to exploit ethnic tensions, to weaken institutions, and to undermine democracy. We've all seen their tactics. They're very familiar now. Cyber attacks, disinformation, and physical threats. And that's why we're providing new support on cybersecurity across the region. It gave us the chance not only to exchange views last night.
On that, we urgently need to see progress in the normalization process between Pristina and Belgrade. We need to see the faithful and full implementation of the agreements you have already reached. Around this table you will find countries willing to support, including my country, Germany, willing to support, but we need your commitment.
To the African continent now, Sudan is accusing the EU of legitimising the RSF militia and turning a blind eye to its abusers. Brussels says it's engaging all sides for peace, but Khartoum calls that rewarding terrorists. Well, our correspondent Naba Mohi in Port Sudan has more.
Thanks, Guy. Actually, the Sudanese government statement came as a reaction to the EU Council conclusion saying that they will impose sanctions on both sides, the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, and also RSF, saying that any party will hinder the peace efforts and talks towards a peaceful resolution to the Sudanese crisis. They will impose more sanctions on both sides. The Sudanese government also, Guy, said that the EU statement is giving legitimacy to the RSF and equaling the two warring sides while they are turning a blind eye on the atrocities and violations RSF are committing against civilians, especially in Al-Fashir, which has been under siege for more than 17 months. They are saying that Al-Fashir is seeing one of the worst crimes, genocides in the recent history in Sudan, and RSF are accused of using starvation as a weapon and also sexual violence against women and children as they are besieging Al-Fashir city and not allowing aid delivery for hundreds of thousands of people who are trapped there. So the Sudanese government are condemning the EU, not pushing on the RSF and not talking about their atrocities against civilians in Sudan generally and in Darfur particularly. Meanwhile, Guy, EU said they will engage in any talks that will end the conflict in Sudan, and they are open to be mediator or facilitator to any peace talks. In the same time, the Sudanese government said they are also open to engage in any talks and they will not hinder peace efforts. They are only conservative about the UAE participation in the Quad roadmap, which is the 4 countries that suggested a roadmap to end the war in Sudan, including United States, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. So this diplomacy between EU and the Sudanese government need to be tackled very soon in order to unify all of the efforts leading to ending the conflict in the near future. Back to you.
Over now to the US, and in Washington, NATO's Secretary General has thrown full support behind Donald Trump's push for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. But with Moscow flexing its nuclear muscle and Kyiv seeking new arms from Sweden, peace still feels a distant prospect.
The head of the NATO alliance on Wednesday said he had, quote, total confidence that U.S. President Donald Trump could deliver peace for Ukraine.
He's the only one who can get this done.
Secretary General Mark Rutte made the comments on a visit to Washington, where he echoed Trump's support for an immediate ceasefire.
I totally agree with him. Stop where you are. That's the main message.
But Moscow signaled something different. The Kremlin published video of what it said were drills involving nuclear weapons, including practice launches of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued reminders of Russia's nuclear might as a warning to Kyiv and its Western allies at key moments in the war. The exercises come a day after the U.S. said it had paused plans for a meeting between Putin and Trump focused on Ukraine. That was the latest twist in months of stalled diplomacy. Putin and Trump spoke last week and unexpectedly announced they would hold a summit in Hungary that the Kremlin said could take place within a couple of weeks. But then the U.S. leader said he supported an immediate ceasefire along the current battle lines. Moscow insists Kiev must cede more territory before talks can begin. That may have left little room for progress.
I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time, so I'll see what happens.
Ukraine's leader was not waiting around for negotiations to begin. President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Sweden, maker of the Gripen's warplane. Stockholm has said it signed a letter of intent to export the fighter jets to Ukraine as European governments boost Kiev's defenses in a war that has ground on for more than 3.5 years since Russia's full-scale invasion and shows no sign of ending soon.
Staying in America, the government shutdown is taking a personal toll. TSA officers, unpaid for weeks, are now relying on food donations and second jobs to survive as airports brace for longer queues and public frustration rises.
The 60,000 men and women who are responsible for keeping American skies safe have gone unpaid through the government shutdown. And if it carries on, many workers with the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, say they will be forced to dip into retirement funds and savings, rack up credit card debt, or take on part-time jobs to make ends meet.
Some people have other jobs, and other people are saying, well, when I get off work, I'm going to do Uber or DoorDash or Lyft or something like that because I need to put food on the table.
Neil Gossman is treasurer of a union representing TSA workers in Minnesota. Reuters spoke to him on October 16th.
We got a final paycheck last Friday. Mine was about 60% of normal, but one of my coworkers said he got a paycheck of $6.34.
Gossman said the shutdown is rapidly approaching the time when tens of thousands of government employees who keep security lines moving and air traffic safe will miss a full paycheck. One of the older women told me that she had to skip some birthday and anniversary gifts. She usually takes her kids out for dinner or something on their birthday or anniversary, and she's postponing that. Another younger woman, she's 22. She's in school to become an EMT. She had to pay for her tuition out of her credit card, and all of a sudden there was no paycheck. And her mom, who also works at TSA, is not able to help her right now because her husband, who's a state trooper, had to go on overtime to bring enough in for their family. I mean, these stories go on and on. A spokesperson said Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport plans to set up a shelf to provide non-perishable food items to federal employees as it did during the last government shutdown. Last week, the U.S. Transportation Department shared information on how to make donations of food, clothing, or other items to TSA officers across the country who earn an average of $40,000 per year.
I do want to say that as time wears on, stress will rise. Everybody has separate circumstances, and you never know what else is going on in people's lives, but it can have real consequences.
During the 35-day shutdown in 2019, the number of absences by air traffic controllers and TSA officers rose as workers missed paychecks. That added to passenger wait times and slowed air traffic, which pressured lawmakers to end the standoff.
Well, that is all for this edition of Newshour. From cross-strait tensions to the corridors of power in Washington and Brussels. The challenges may differ, but the world's search for stability, well, that remains the same. From all of us here at A News, thanks for being with us.